Yes.
Never seen you this way before.
What's the suit mayor anyway?
Okay, so we ready? Are we on? We're going? Okay. Welcome everybody to the Town and Community Committee meeting on the 28th of June 2022. Agenda item 1 is apologies for absence. Have you received that? I've received apologies from Councillor Hinton.
I believe we have apologies from the Mayor, Councillor Michelle Thomas, and I believe Councillor Arlott is substituting for the Mayor.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Hooper
Councillor Hooper.
is busy. Sorry.
Okay. Agenda item 2, declarations of interest. See none.
Can I just, at this point, raise a point of order? It is very unusual for this town council to meet on the day of a regatta. And that's because the regatta has moved to a Tuesday. So can I just ask for next year, can we not meet on the Tuesday of regatta, please? Because we should support the regatta. Thank you.
Anyway, moving on. Item 3, public participation. To receive questions and comments from members of the public on any items included on the agenda. Go ahead, sir. If you could please give your name and what street you live on.
Yeah, I'm Nigel Pike. I live on Friday Street.
Very
And
good.
I'd like to I think anybody that chooses to live in the centre of town, and there's actually quite a few of us here, we all recognise that parking is going to be a challenge. And we certainly don't expect the right to be able to park outside our own house. I'd say though that in the last 24, 25 years that I've lived here, it's become much more difficult to park anywhere in Friday Street or anywhere in the centre of town. Not least in part because of the conversion of properties into single flats that some of them which had their own parking but now don't, but have now got residence parking. So things have got more difficult. I'd say that at a rough guess, there's about 50, I think people have counted 50 residences in Friday Street. Maybe not all of them have parking permits, but some of them will have 2. Their families and children, and they have 2 cars. For those 50 plus residents that live in the street, 50 accommodations that live in the street, there's about 6 or 7, depending on how you park, dedicated parking bays. There's about 4 or 5, depending on how you park, pay and display parking bays that the residents can use. And there are about 10 or 11, there were 10 or 11 free 1 hour no return bays at the Duke Street end of Friday Street that up until the last 4 or 5 weeks, I don't know the exact date, were also available for residents to use. In the 24, 25 years I've been here, I've never had a parking ticket for parking there. So that's changed. So at a stroke, we've lost essentially half of the parking that the residents had access to in Friday Street. My partner, Susan, came home last week with my daughter, dumped the car outside the house and said, "You park it. I've been driving around for 20 minutes. So I then had to go out and drive around for another 10 minutes to try and park the car. And it's, I have a couple of photographs. It's particularly galling, especially during the day when you can't park, to see the 11 bays that we used to use are frequently not completely used, sometimes half empty. And when they are being used, the cars that are in them are often residents' cars with parking tickets. I know that the council is looking at this, and we appreciate that you're looking at this. And I think there's a report that's going to make some recommendations. But those recommendations, I assume they have to go to the district council for approval. It's going to take quite a lot of time to make that decision, whichever way it goes. And I understand there's a precedent for the local council to appeal to the district council to suspend the penalties during the period of time that that decision is being taken. And what we hope is that you will get this suspended until a final decision is taken about residents parking in Friday Street. I mean, residents parking in Friday Street is always an issue. We are families, we are people that live there. And if there's no parking, the families will move out. And maybe that's what the council want, I don't know. But that is what's going to happen because you can't live if you can't park. Thank you.
Right, can I? Can I say something?
I
I
don't
need,
believe it. Well, it's not really an item on the agenda, but I can give an update on this item. Councillors need to speak on that.
Councillor Cook.
I have someone from my family that has the same issue parking down that road, and they actually now park outside my house because they cannot get parked down that road. It's dreadful. You know, they pay for permits, but there isn't enough spaces, so they're having to park outside my house, paid for a permit, and they can't use it, and it seems rather unfair. Is there any way we could work with the army place for parking to help solve the yeah.
Sorry. Do you want to give a quick update?
Yes,
Sorry, does anybody else want to speak on the same subject?
Yes.
We'll let the public speak first.
So I sent an email to the Town Council and Oxfordshire Town Council, obviously, about this issue. I live opposite the Willow Basket, and said that, you know, we've been able to park there ever since I've lived there without any issue. And although there are reduced spaces, it has worked, and that, you know, we work between us to be able to park. I have a small daughter, a lot of us have families, and the irony of the fact that we're talking about carbon emissions in the town, and basically a lot of us have to get up in the morning. If we're not going to work, we then have to get in the car, drive the car around the corner, or drive around Henley to add to those emissions. It's ridiculous. When you think about the cost of petrol that's going up and up, and the cost of living in Henley, you are pushing people out of the area, out of the centre. You know, I literally just paid for my residence parking 2 days earlier, and then got a parking ticket outside my house. There were 10 cars in the street that got parking tickets that day. On one of the cars, there are about 3 parking tickets because the person hadn't moved the car. It's ridiculous. You can't expect people to live in the centre of Henley. You know, what are we supposed to do? Drop our children in the house and then drive around? I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Isn't there a system in Oxford where residents are given the usual freedom to park, but visitors only have an hour, but you're in the same spaces? Doesn't it work in places in Oxford like that? Because it's very much like what we're doing anyway.
I think, Town Clerk, would you like to give a brief update on the current situation with Cyrus?
Yes, certainly. This was raised with us a few weeks ago, firstly by Councillor Buckley and also Councillor Hampson, who's also raised the issue with us. When it was first mentioned to, so it's Oxfordshire County Council, who's the local highways authority, who have responsibility for the highways and the parking. So when we spoke to them initially, to both the staff there, the officers there, and also the local county councillor, the thought was that basically it's always been when our parking and residents have never been formally permitted to stay there. Therefore, residents have been on borrowed time, and now we've just started enforcing it. And so basically the message that was coming back was, unfortunately, it's tough. However, we've since I think there wasn't quite an understanding of the magnitude of the situation. The fact that more than half of the parking on Friday Street, it looks like, is the 1 hour parking bays rather than residents only. So I don't think there was quite that understanding the level of the level of the issue there. So we've spoken to them again. The local county councillor is, who's also town councillor, he's very sympathetic to the situation and is keen to see some solution to it. And also, I know that town councillors who've been on site, and as you may know, the town council is undertaking its own review of all the parking restrictions through Henley. This isn't a review that we can then implement. It's simply recommendations that we make to the county council. However, it does look like we have a good relationship with them, and hopefully our recommendations will get through. However, any review that we do it's not going to be implemented tomorrow, and I'm sure that residents are looking for probably either a quicker fix or some kind of suspension of the parking fines until some solution is found. I believe you did allude to the fact that there's a precedent set, which you might be referring to Northfield End, where or it may be somewhere else, but at Northfield End, there are residents have been parking on double yellow lines and not getting tickets. That's because a formal traffic regulation order has been made to allow parking there, but the painting of the bays and the new signage just hasn't gone up yet. So they have agreed a moratorium on issuing parking fines there. There is a suggestion that, given the extent of the situation at Friday Street, we could potentially, as a town council, request to the county council. There's also a moratorium on parking fines at Friday Street as well. Although that would be a decision for the committee here as to whether or not they want to make that as a recommendation to the county council. And ultimately, it would be a county council decision if the town council can't. We can't put it in place ourselves. So that's broadly where the update that I've got so far.
Thank you.
Can I just comment on that point? Sorry, Adrian Juvers, 21 Friday Street. I'm a resident and a permit holder. I've had a parking notice, which I feel is a formulaic response back, which most of the residents have done, which is pretty disappointing, really. But Councillor Tim Beard wrote to the council here, in fact, towards the end of last year. One of the things he said wasn't that it's tough or we're in borrowed time. I mean, some of this goes on 18, 25 years. I don't consider that to be borrowed time. In 6 years I've been here, we've never been penalised in this way. And they've just been as vociferous as anything since the back end of May. Your stats hopefully later will show that. But I just want to read here, it says, we plan to take a pragmatic, this is Oxfordshire County Council, we plan to take a pragmatic approach to enforcement of these areas, and where there is an agreement to carry out a review of the restrictions, the parking team will give a commitment to suspend enforcement until an outcome is reached. So could you do what you suggested there as a council, please, for the residents of this town who at the moment feel particularly persecuted?
Does anyone else want to speak who is from the public?
I'm Manchester. I'm just a new resident of Henley. Like myself and everyone here could perhaps comment as well that it took me a half an hour just to find the parking spot around 9:30 at night last week, and it seems to be a recurring issue. And I've only been here in Henley for 1 week. Could I propose that local residents, be able to park in the local car parks until the local council comes up with a better solution? Because I believe that you would happily give away, happily send out the parking residence permits. However, it's clearly oversubscribed at the moment, and we, the residents, have to take the brunt of the force, driving around for half hour, an hour, sometimes trying to find a local spot. Sometimes have to walk half an hour, maybe 20 minutes from one particular location to home address.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public? Sir?
Paul Stott, 23 Friday Street. I've lived in Friday Street for 35 years and brought up 4 children there, so I know a little bit about the parking there. And I'm not going to take up your time by repeating whatever else I said. I just want to endorse what Nigel and Adrian and the gentleman there have already said, and our friend here. And you both. And to say, in particular, if you look at those spaces which are currently 1 hour parking, they're empty most of the time. I'm working from home a lot of the time, so I'm popping in and out, whatever, and they're empty most of the time. If they were full, there'd be an argument, wouldn't there, for the business community or whatever needed it. They're empty most of the time, and they could so easily be residents parking to alleviate this. Well, stop people driving around quite as much as to stop it completely. But if it could be changed to residents parking in due course, and in the meantime, if there could be an sort of amnesty, as it were. That's what used to happen in the past. Once every 2 years, someone will come down and just remind you that it was there. I don't know why that happened, but it did. And if that could be reintroduced in the meantime, that would be great.
Thank you. I mean, there have always been more resident passes issued than there are spaces. It guarantees the right to park, it doesn't guarantee a space necessarily. Sorry, you have your hand up, sir?
Gary Petrie.
Please go ahead.
It is important to recognise that these parking spaces are actually outside premises that were former shops when the rules come into play probably 25 years ago. In that time, there are now only around about 2 or 3 shops in Friday Street. They've all been converted to residential, which is why I think a common sense approach is taking place, where the traffic wardens realise there isn't a need for a short stopover for a shop to collect something and drop something off, because there are no shops in this round. This is residences, they're all private houses, and they've been this way for at least 10 years, if not longer. And therefore, I think it's important that a common sense approach could be re-established.
Okay, thank you. So many of you will probably be aware that we are currently undergoing a large parking review of the entire town, which is on the agenda tonight. I'm sure we'll be including Frank in that. Does anybody else from the public want to speak before?
I just want to make one other comment. So Stuart from Queen Street, currently parked on Station Road. I've got the same issue as these guys with the Friday Street, so I won't repeat that. I think one of my biggest gripes is the fact that there's actually pay and display parking actually in and around the town centre. Like where I live on Queen Street, it's pay and display as well. Then 20 spaces where it's residents only. Another 10 or so that pay and display, and there's I think adequate parking in Grays Road, Waitrose car park station. I don't understand why it isn't in and around that area, even on the riverside. Residents only. I don't think people should go to the weekend, pay to park, often leaving their cars all day Sunday. Residents driving around not being able to park. It should really be residents only in and around the town centre. There is adequate parking for visitors to the town.
Thank you. Anybody else? So,
17 Friday Street, I'll just add my weight to everyone else's arguments. I think everything's been said.
okay.
The I'd employ to a quick solution on the basis of this review.
Thank
It's
you.
going to take months.
Thank you. Are we good? Anybody else? Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to Friday Street for coming out tonight to speak to us. Thank you for all your inputs. I'm the councillor from the Area 1 Parking Review. I submitted my report a week ago. And in that report, I recognised there was a serious problem with the Friday Street. I've got pictures here of 2 cars parking that were ticketed this morning. That was this morning. And I've got photos going back, having spoken with Nigel on many occasions. The reality is, it's going to take us time to come up with a long-term solution. A long-term solution is that we need more residence bays there and less retail bays there. My recommendation in my report is that we have 2, only 2, the top 2 as shopper bays, and the rest of Friday Street becomes resident bays for residents parking. Now, we've gone down the civil enforcement route, and that's the right thing to do because it means the police aren't giving out tickets, but we've got another team doing it. The problem is, it's going to take time to make these changes. And as we've got in Northfield End, we've got a moratorium. We need to move very quickly, and I've been talking to the town clerk today. We're not giving out tickets in Northfield End. I see no reason why in that segment of bays, we couldn't follow the same routes. So we're doing what we're doing in Northfield End, exactly the same, what we're doing in Friday Street, to allow these people to stop driving around the town at night, 20 minutes or whatever they're having,
Councillor Hamilton, you are on the parking.
I'm on the
group.
parking group, yeah.
And this is in your report that you.
It is all in my report, and it's all been submitted.
Thank you very
This
much.
is, hang on, this
Councillor
is-
Ableton.
Well, I'm just going to carry on because I went round with Will and with the parking things, we should turn those into residence parking, but there is enough room in Friday Street to actually put more slightly down the bottom, which is also in Will's report.
This is also in the report to the parking working group, isn't it? So
Yes.
we can discuss this on the.
They don't know this.
This is public participation.
Yeah, but we need to move quickly to have a short-term solution, because it's going to take time for the
Right.
parking report to come through.
So in the spirit of moving quickly, we're going to move on to agenda item 4.
I haven't finished. I was just saying, this has been going on.
Can we just stick to the agenda?
Yeah, let's
Oh,
stick
as
to
a
the
point of
agenda.
order, this item will be discussed later on the agenda at the appropriate time. This is public participation, not a
So
council
why
debate.
did you ask me to speak then, if it's
Well,
public
I thought you
participation?
might have something to contribute, but if we're going to
I
discuss
am,
it in the.
but, okay, I'll do it when it's,
Well, we have a specific item for this, so let's just stick to the agenda. Right, item 4, minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. To approve the minutes of the town and community meeting held on the 17th of May 2022.
That's a proposal.
Second. You in favour? Thank you. Receive and note the minutes of the events subcommittee meeting held on the 13th of June 2022. Second. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. Receive and note the notes of the parking working group held on Monday, the 30th of May 2022.
That's a proposal.
Thank you. Second. Second. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. And there we go. Now, right, agenda item 5, parking. To receive statistics for fixed penalty notices issued between November 2021 and June 2022.
That's a proposal, and I'd like to make a proposal if I may, respect. I received the statistics of the fixed penalty notices, and I'm concerned about the residents of Friday Street being given penalty notices when they shouldn't be given them. And in line with the discussion we've just had, I think we should ask the town clerk to look for a moratorium on Friday Street, specifically for this area where there is parking, and to take that up with the Oxfordshire County Council tomorrow to see if we can apply the same rules for Northfield End as Friday Street as previously discussed. That's my proposal.
and I'll second that.
Okay. Anybody else like to speak? Councillor Arnold.
Yeah, I've listened to the public, and you know I understand where you're coming from. The problem as I see this, you know, we've been shown some pictures of the road without any cars parking there. If we go back to the norm, all we're going to get is shoppers coming into town or office workers, and they're going to park there all day long. Because there's no way the enforcement officer is going to know between shoppers, business people, office people, and residents. So you're going to get a situation where, can I finish? So you're going to get a situation where you could get a situation where you're not going to get what you want because other people are going to park there all through the daytime. I'm not sure what percentage of the people in Friday Street wish to park there through the daytime. I'm not sure if Councillor Hamilton's information that he's got shows the answer to that question. But just moving on, we have had, which is quite right, we have had 2 or 3 places where they were enforced. We've spoken to OCC, and they have relaxed it. That's obviously the way to go at this moment in time. Subject to, as I say, you're going to get anybody parking there, not just residents. Maybe fine in the evening, but it won't be in the daytime. So we have been successful within 2 or 3 areas in the town where they basically stopped issuing or enforcing the parking. So that is a possibility, and that's probably the route to go down to. You know, hopefully short term that will work to the gentleman there, and you know, they can get their parking in the evening, but I'm not convinced that that they will have all the places in the daytime hours. Then again, they may not need them, I don't know. So I would suggest, you know, rather than going into a big debate, I think that's the best way to go forward, is to the town clerk to speak to OCC tomorrow and see if we can arrange something on that line. And I'm sure we can do. Thank you.
Councillor Brooke.
If they had permits, they wouldn't get tickets. So we wouldn't get the people coming in, parking, like what you're saying, because I think is it Grays Hill, they have notorious problems with people going up there, parking, going off to London instead of paying the station fees, and no one can park outside. So surely if they just had the permits, they'd be able to park there, and not the people like Ken said. We could just get them to check the permits that are there, get the ticket people to check the permits that are there, because, and unfortunately that gentleman that's moved to Henley that's gone, unfortunately the estate agents do say to people when they go, oh yes, there's parking because you can get a permit, but that it's up to people if they're moving to be able to actually do your research. Is there proper provision for parking? Don't automatically expect it. You have to do your research. You see, you have to check. And unfortunately, it's just estate agents that are saying, oh, it's fine, it's fine. Well, they will say that because they want a sale. But I'm not making excuses, but I'm just saying for people that are moving into Henley, you need to really check the parking.
The Grace Hill isn't residents parking.
No, but they have terrible trouble with people,
They do.
commuters, going off and leaving their cars all day long, even going on holiday and leaving their cars, and they're quite frankly taking the mickey.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, fine. So-
That's Eggleton.
We talked about this about 3-4 years ago about Friday Street, and you can check the minutes of 3-4 years ago. Can't remember which committee it was, talking about doing away with the 1 hour and turning it into residence parking. Yet we're 4 years on, we still haven't done anything about it, even though now we've got enforcement. We used to have an hour, no return within an hour. I think, like in Will's report, that it will state that turning those into residence parking and extending it to another 5 or 6 cars slightly further down will then take up that slack. But you can park in the car park, I don't know what time it is, from about 7 o'clock, and it's free until 10 o'clock in the morning. So there's loads of spaces in the car. 8 o'clock. So after 8 o'clock, you can park in the car park until 10 o'clock in the morning.
To 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock in the morning. So I went round with Will and see all these different things. And also there was a lot of people actually going up Friday Street and coming out the end of Friday Street. It's because if you see these no entry signs, some of them turned around facing up the other way. So I went and put them back facing the right way, because it was probably quicker for me to do that than to report it to Salford District Council.
Sorry, could you just repeat that? What was that?
These signs here were facing the other way.
No entry.
They were turned around the other way. So there was loads of people reporting it to me about there was cars going straight through and coming out the other end. So rather than put it to Salford District Council, which would probably taken about 2 to 3 weeks,
Oxfordshire County Council.
Oxfordshire County Council, it would have taken 2 to 3 weeks to actually come out. I decided to do it and stop people going up there because I thought it might be a bit dangerous. So if Sheridan can ask for them to suspend those bays so people don't get tickets on there. I don't know how you're going to work that, but that's not down to me to do that. But it would be good if they could. Like I said, this has been going on a lot longer than when you're talking about it now. This is 4 years in the going, which should have been done and addressed. It's 3 to 4 years ago this was discussed, and this should have been put in motion and turned into residence parking. Perhaps we wouldn't be in this predicament now.
Councillor Wiseman.
I've lived in the town centre for most of the last 40 years, and parking is difficult if you live in the town centre at times. There is a problem in most towns, and Henley's no different. And for many years, we haven't had a parking strategy carried out by the county council. And one of the goals of the town council in setting up a group was to look at a strategic look at parking in the town centre in particular, so that we could look after all the interests of the different groups, the disabled, the commercial, people who want the shoppers, those who want to load, and residents as well. And we can try and look at something in the short term, which has been suggested, and that may well work. But as Councillor Arnott's pointed out, that may actually turn out to be counterproductive, because if you get those slots used up by shoppers or people who work in shops all day, then they'll just be taken up and there'll be no use at all. So you have to be careful about what you do and make sure that the parking situation is looked at strategically. I mean, maybe in the short term that we can help, and I'm happy to support approaching the county council and explaining the problems that we have. I mean, say I live in Albert Road, and I haven't got a parking permit because the road is always full. So I walk 5 minutes and up Grays Road and park there. There are parking places if you're prepared to walk, but it's not always convenient. And one of the problems is that the people park illegally in Albert Road, and they block the turning circle. And my neighbour's got a disabled parking slot outside his house, but people come and use that. And unless enforcement's carried out, people suffer because of the fact that enforcement is there to help people and protect people and make sure that the system, as designed, works. I accept that the lack of a parking strategy for the last 20 years does mean that we have difficulties of the sort that have been brought up tonight, which are real, and we should be looking at those both short term and long term. So I'm going to support the fact that we approach the county council, but and in the short term, we may be able to help a bit, but don't expect a massive improvement, because the problem will always exist, and we need to make sure that the county council is persuaded to look at the problem as a whole, not just in one small area.
Yeah, which is exactly what the parking working group is for, but I guess the proposal is about a temporary fix, isn't it? Does anybody else want to comment on this?
I'll sum up from it.
Not just yet.
Well, you've spoken
Go on,
already.
one more go?
Yeah,
You've spoken already,
Yeah,
Councillor.
but this is a committee meeting, it's not full council or Councillor Hamilton. Yeah, can I just pick up on the residents' parking that Dave was just mentioned, Councillor Egerton was just mentioned there. I can't remember, unless it's before my time, when we discussed residents' parking for Friday Street, so I'd be interested if someone can go back through the minutes and show me that. The bigger the problem, believe it or believe it not, that Oxfordshire Council did not wish to put any more residents parking in this town, and it's as simple as that. I've been working, believe it or not, as well, for 4 years to get residents parking along Northfield Avenue, and it's only since we've had this new officer, and I can't remember what his name is, town clerk, started about 3 months ago, that they've now changed their attitude and they are prepared to look at residents parking now. And that's obviously one of the reasons we're now carrying out this survey of the whole town. So I think long term, we are looking at residents parking there. There's no doubt about that. We are looking at that. It's going to take more than a few days. So we go back to what actually Councillor Crook said, and I think that's the better way forward, that we see if we can organise the residents of Friday Street to get a residence parking ticket, the ones that haven't, and they are then allowed to park there with a residence parking ticket. Now, if they've got a residence parking ticket, that will hopefully stop the shoppers and the business people parking there, because they won't have a residence parking. So I can't remember what your motion was, Will, but I think you should probably add
Well, he'll sum up in a second.
that into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
That's perfect. Okay. So historically, we've only supported residents parking in streets where a majority of residents want residents parking, which makes sense. Councillor Hamilton, would you like to sum up? Thank you.
The reality is, given the sway of people that have come from Friday Street tonight, that the solution working there, where we've applied enforcement, has given a significant problem to the residents there. And whilst we will have a long-term solution from the report, The motion is to ask the town clerk to speak to OCC and to the parking wardens to come up with a short-term solution, whatever that may be, probably along the same lines as Northfield End, and for the town clerk to prioritise this in the next couple of days, so that the residents of Friday Street are not inconvenienced any further or ticketed any further. Again, with whatever means the town clerk thinks are necessary.
Okay, thank you. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. There you go. Item 5, level 2, is to appoint the membership of the parking working group and their scope and methodology. Very much. Thank you. Bye-bye. Anybody like to comment?
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Arlott.
Could I propose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? But could I change councillor Gattacek to councillor Buckley?
Yes.
Yeah, I spoke to councillor Gattacek about this. I
Okay.
think councillor Buckley showed an interest.
So councillor Gattacek is happy to come off.
Yeah.
And councillor Buckley is happy to go on.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll second that. Trust. All those in favour? Thank you. It's unanimous. Anybody else want to comment on this? Back to accept councillors. Yeah. Just a minute, seconded. All those in favour? Thank you.
My report's with the town clerk, if anyone wants to read it.
As is mine, if anyone would like to read it.
We haven't moved on to town clerk.
I've still got to do mine because I've been extremely busy, so.
I'll just add that there is an awful need for a lot of white paint in Henley. The paint down many of the roads is in a shopping centre.
Especially on the, talking about Friday Street, needing that no entry, because you can't see that no entry.
We'll give you a paintbrush, Phil. You've got plenty of time around.
Yeah. Come on, let's just get through this. Item 6, town centre manager update.
Would you, thank you. Would you like me to go through it or have you have an opportunity to read
Thank
it?
you. Bye-bye.
And I'll shake the head from well then. What would normally happen?
You do whatever you like.
Or
Or we can comment, or we can ask questions.
If you'd like to check, you can. If you don't want to, if anyone has any questions.
I'm
I
very
think
happy
we're
to go
okay.
through it. I just don't want to take people's time if they've already read it in its entirety.
Oh, that's fine.
So 6 weeks in, settling in very well, being made to feel extremely welcome. I think I'm.
Is that by anybody in particular?
Oh, well, I will never name drop, but it's been an overwhelming welcome. I definitely have sat and had some very clear guidance from Sheridan around priorities, and I've identified a few of my own. So we definitely want to be able to take the events to the next level. They've done extremely well to date, and I'd like to, say a huge well done and thank you to Nikki in particular, but to all of the people, all of the staff that have got these events delivered under some really tough and challenging circumstances. But we are going to look to make them bigger. And I am trying to sort out Christmas lights. There'll be a little bit on that shortly. Setting our teams, putting together a town centre action plan. I am out and about, and I will continue to be out and about. People do recognise me already. They have seen me lots. I am going in and introducing myself to, I think I've probably done already over half of the retailers. I would have liked to have done all of them by now, but time doesn't always allow that to happen, but I do try and take a street at a time. And it also depends on how busy they are. And obviously the next couple of weeks are going to be extremely busy for retailers, so I have to pick my time well.
Can I just say something?
Councillor Cribb.
Could you please speak to the businesses with their A boards out, because this particular moment, because down that bit down there, I've got brain fog.
I have.
Yeah, it was the display sign for the late night bus as well, and it was just so cluttered.
Yeah.
And all down that, I've got brain fog, I can't think.
So Hart Street is
Marketplace, yeah.
Mar-
Yeah, and someone Reading Road, they would like, and it's just if you've got a pram, wheelchair, or you're partially sighted, and it's just like, oh, it's too much clutter.
Absolutely.
I know they want to do well, but it's just people walking and crowds.
Absolutely. So while I'm out and about, it's not just about meeting the retailers and on occasion our residents. It is also about me carrying out visual audits of the town centre. So the cleanliness, A-boards, clutter, all things like that. And I will take pictures and I will go in and deal with the situation if I can at the time. And such things that I've already dealt with are the A-boards. And I've asked a couple of businesses on Hart Street to make sure that they've only got one A-board per business and that they are located close to their doorway ideally. There will be an exception when it comes to A-boards because of the street furniture that may mean discretion needs to be applied by us, that the A-boards are in line with the street furniture, so there will be. But I am absolutely out about looking at this, and I'm reminding people in a very nice way that we do have powers to remove the boards if needs be, but we don't want it to come to that. We want to work with the businesses. So it's about informing rather than enforcing, and they're all very, very happy to receive that information. And most of the offenders are people who are either new managers in place or new businesses.
It was only purely.
Can we just listen to the report and then I
Sorry.
can take questions?
Sorry,
Yeah.
it was only because of people walking and didn't want people falling over them when they're struggled.
So out and about and picking up on all of those things, I will also be looking at the Visit Henley website, and I do still need to pick up Bloom, but Bloom will also become a priority. I've attended a couple of the Henley business partnerships as well, so we're not just looking at city centre retailers and town centre retailers. There are some other business and key stakeholders that I've been able to reach out to. And that's been really, really good. And I have to say that that particular meeting, I really have enjoyed the 2 times I've attended so far. And I will be going along and speaking at hopefully their August meeting, and I'm likely to theme it around futures of town centres, because of course that's always quite contentious and people have different ideas about what a town centre should be. It helps me to gather the people's feelings and help us put a vision together. So events, Queen Platinum Jubilee, it was received extremely well. Generally feedback was positive, but we are aware that there was perhaps a little bit of a mixed response in terms of the decorations. I note that some people think less is more, and some people like a huge fanfare. So we will never ever please all of the people all of the time, but I think we did ourselves proud, and we mustn't always knock ourselves because Marlow did something different. I think we just need to look at that. But that was done sort of, again, with very minimal staff. Christmas, the planning is well underway. In fact, all I've been doing is singing Christmas carols today, because we've just had the date come through to pick the Christmas tree, and the event this year will hopefully be bigger and better based on the plans, and I shall be looking at delivering a verbal report at the event subcommittee, which is this coming Monday, the 4th. Armed Forces Day, did anybody get to go along? Yeah, that was nice.
No. Because no.
Okay.
Well, it was okay.
I will carry on.
Better.
Okay, well, we can look at that. So generally events will be bigger and better. Team objectives, just looking at markets and event management in general, and there's a few areas around that we need to look at. It's operational stuff. I'm happy to go into detail now, but I don't think I need to. It's all being reviewed. As with the PA and office management element. So for the town centre action plan, then I've started working on draft, and we will then look at how we wish to carry out consultation, and the plan will consist of 4 parts, looking at context, And then how we're going to look at doing that, I really want to carry out a SWOT, an action plan and implementation. So business as usual, as I've already said, provides me with lots of opportunities to gather that information, and then I can present it to here, and hopefully we can look at that. But that is going to be a long-term project. So out and about, I've already said, I am meeting with traders, and we've got graffiti at the moment, which I know has been a problem. So just a quick update on that, which I think you will probably appreciate, is that general approach to graffiti is if we can get it removed quickly ourselves, we will. Obviously, if we need to speak to the owner, or there is an issue with the building being listed, then we have to go down, and it will take slightly longer. But where we can just get it removed quickly, we will. The H on the bridge is being dealt with by OCC. There is nothing more that we can do as a town council in regards to that. That is Oxfordshire County Council who have taken that and will continue with that. I would like to hold a talk of the town meeting, which is a quarterly retailers forum. Not every retailer will attend, but I do think we'll get those who are keen to come and put their opinions forward, and I will hold those at different times of the day to make sure that they are as accessible as possible. In terms of the Visit Henley website, it is quite a big job, and I am just comparing at the moment whether we need to continue with that brand or whether we can look at using YouTube. New businesses will pop up, and we've got a few on the horizon, and we need to be able to keep that map updated, and those maps need to be available to be given out, so we need to make sure that they're very accessible. So that will be a quick win, hopefully. Can I just ask, please, just to add to my report, now I'm on board, I'd like to try and encourage you when it comes to environmental issues, things that are out and about, like I've said, graffiti, could you make sure that that comes to me? I know that Nikki has absolutely shouldered so much in the absence, but she has an awful lot to get on with, and I'd really like to keep an idea of what's going on. Nikki will pass it to me, but please just put anything like that straight to me. It makes it easier for me to get out and deal with it quickly. Christmas lights, did you, Ian, was that okay?
Yeah, that was fine.
Yeah, are you sure? Supplier in place ASAP.
I was really just checking that it belonged to the events committee, as I thought it did.
Yes.
So now I know.
And reading through your report, I mean, it's great to see such a thorough, and you've done so much, and it's really refreshing for us to know that you know you're out there and you're meeting the retailers. I know I've spoken to people at the business partnership, actually I was with a few of them tonight, and they were really pleased that you were there, you're involved, you're feeding back, you know. It's the Retailers Forum, thank goodness that's back. If we can get that going again, I think we missed out on that. And yeah, the retailers are a bit slow to come forward, but you know, you'll get the usual suspects coming on to that. And I think it's really good. So yes, all in all, I just wanted to say very quick thank you, and yeah, it's really good. It's exciting stuff. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Hamilton. Thank you. Thank you for your report. I'm delighted to see that you've taken the baton, as it were, to the 3FM Henley Business Partnership. I think not just councillors, but it's very important you're there, because it's important that you attend. I know the town clerk's been there with me. I've regularly attended it, and I think it's a great way to hear what the businesses of the town are saying and also feedback how we can help them. We should do everything we can to support visitor tag. I wasn't at the events committee, but I did read the feedback from Paula Radcliffe regarding the Jubilee celebrations. Yes, you can't always get it right, but I think we probably should have done something with the celebration beds in particular. But Sarah's probably knows more because she was at that meeting. One thing I'm going to pick out from your report was the the Armed Forces Day in the marketplace. The band were brilliant, absolutely, probably the best band I've ever heard in the marketplace. And they're horrible, so please get them back for something else. They're brilliant, absolutely brilliant. It was really, really fantastic. Even had a bit of James Bond, but there you go. I thought they were absolutely brilliant. Graffiti, as the town clerk knows, I have a zero tolerance to graffiti. And I hear what you say about the county council in terms of Henley Bridge, but I do think that we need to put a Hessian sack over it. It is disgusting that we have graffiti on our bridge, and that bridge is going to be photographed probably 6,000 times in the next 6 days. So anything, the regatta have been pretty good with us previously. Now, on the railings, for example, they once covered them. So if they could just cover that over with a Hessian sack or whatever it might be. Yes, I know it's grey listed, but
that's the worst idea I've heard for a long time.
I don't like one.
Just cover it over. Just
At least at the moment,
just cover it over.
How are you going to touch it? You're going to hammer in the nails like life.
Moving safely along.
I thank you for what you've done, and keep it going.
Thank you.
Councillor Eggleton.
Yeah, thank you for your report. As regards to lighting, when they redo this, if this is a new contractor, when they renew the lighting, would they be taking all the old lighting out? Because the amount of lighting is up those trees, especially one by the bridge.
Yeah.
And I've had to pull it up and try to tie it off because there was cables, but I didn't know whether they were live, so I taped them off. Hopefully that the new lighting company will take all the existing out and put the other ones up.
Yes.
And fix them in a way that they can't, when they're pruning the tree, they're not going to disturb them, so they're hanging down again.
Yeah, absolutely. There is we need to make sure, and this is why I've kind of said, if it comes through to me, issues like this, then I can very quickly go to the people who, example, District Council or Oxfordshire County Council would come along and prune the trees and just say, look, let me know when you're coming into town, because in future, the have on those lights. But to answer your question, we've already done a walkabout with hopefully who will be the supplier of the Christmas lights going forward, to make sure that all of the stuff is doable and doable very quickly, because we want to make sure that there's absolutely no health and safety issues with these lights that have been hanging down. So it is absolutely a priority and being dealt with as we speak.
Because there was, with the Christmas tree lights, each one had a Christmas tree with the lights attached to it. And because they were a previous contractor, they said we couldn't touch those, and there was loads of.
I think we're clear. I think we're really clear on what we own, what the new contractors will be delivering, and what is our responsibility and what will come under the contract.
Right. Thanks very much. I'm going to move on now. Sorry.
The only point I was going to pick up was on the item where you said to pass information through to you. Unfortunately, we have a bit of a renegade on the town council, which obviously is Councillor Hamilton, where he obviously puts this.
Mr. Chair, what is going on? Point of order.
Where he puts derogatory statements out about Henley.
Mr. Chair, can we move on?
So hopefully in future he will pass everything through you.
It helps me greatly.
Thank you very much.
Point well made. Let's move on now.
Can I just have one small point?
I really want to move on.
Phillimore Fountain, I just want to ask, does that belong to the town centre manager, or does it belong to RNA?
RNA. Oh, actually, is it blue?
It was under blue, yeah.
It was a TNC thing last year.
Because that we must be quite close to that coming back into service. I mean, I signed off the costings for it today, so I'm hoping that there's a plan for that and a date where that can be reinstated.
There might be some additional costings for that.
The budget, okay. Would you like something?
I can just.
Yes.
Which is very good news story.
Just to clarify. So yes, the work of the Phillimore Fountain was to do repairs to the stonework, which were completed back in March. It was part paid from the Bloom reserves, partly from the Henley Society, and half the money was paid for by the Phillimore family themselves. The stonemasons have come back with some suggestions for further work to improve the fountain, which I believe Councillor Miller and then the society are looking at the moment to see whether or not we might be interested in doing that. It doesn't mean that it's going to become a fountain anytime soon,
No.
unfortunately.
It's gonna be expensive.
Yeah.
It's just decorative.
Anyway,
Excuse me, Chair, I've got to go.
are you gonna go? Yeah. Oh, sorry. Have a good evening, Councillor Eggleston. Well, thank you, Laurie.
Right, okay.
Okay, so agenda item 7 is communications manager update. Now, I assume you are not doing
No,
this.
I just looked at that and thought, I mean, I can.
This is a
Obviously, we
typo.
have.
I say no. I say no, I've read it.
We'll
It's,
note it.
it's quite a short report.
I say no.
I think here again, Chairman, and you may wish to stop me, but I think communication should go through the communication manager. You know, I've got some absolute dross in front of me from council.
I do agree, I have seen it. but
Which
we are
we're unable
discussing
to
today.
respond to because we're all blocked. So if we could just ask Councillor Hamilton to go through the communication officer in future, rather than I have to read this dross. And I get everything.
I'm going to respond to this. Councillor Rowan, if you want to send me an email, all right, don't, all right, because you're just wasting the meeting's time.
No, this is wasting everyone's time.
So-
We're going to move
so-
on. Item 8, progress. Does anybody have any comments?
We're in progress now, sorry. Shut up, it's point of order.
That's correct.
Yeah, bin refurbishment. Yeah, that, bin refurbishment. Is there any chance, and I don't want to cause any more problems, can we, as a trial, put a solar bin in the marketplace?
I agree.
Just to trial it for 6 months, because it might work. And then we won't get derogative comments written about HTC letting the town down.
I agree. They don't need excavation underneath, do they?
I've no, they don't. No,
Tap up.
We do have 2 solar bins which are shortly going to be trialled. I believe one's down Stings Park. Can't remember the location of the one, but we do have 2 solar bins
By the bridge.
by the bridge, yes. So which are going to be trials. I would probably suggest that we wait for the outcome of that before suggesting any new locations.
I just thought instead of having it down Singers, we could have it in the marketplace because it's big football. No, right, okay, fine.
Councillor Hamilton.
Can I just raise again, Wooden Road shops, I get the regular emails about that from the Wombles. Wombles have indicated a couple of areas which I've forwarded to the town clerk in terms of grot spots that for SODC to look at in their review. And also the bin is still not been refurbished and replaced at the bottom of Friday Street, so that could be put back on the list.
It should have gone out this week.
They did, James has been now doing the work, I think obviously the regatta.
We had a delay. We've been chasing it up, Will, because we know it's missing.
That's all right. I looked today.
So that is imminent.
It's imminent, yeah.
Very good,
Yeah.
thank you.
Councillor Miller.
I've noticed that it's my responsibility for the Barama Way mural, street art. Didn't we agree to remove that from progress? I don't know where we are. I don't know what's happening with that, whether or not Philippa.
Yes, I thought it was Philip.
This is definitely, yeah, Philippa proposed this and I mean, it's a great idea, but it's gone on now. I don't know how, I think we need to I can have a chat and see how far she's gone with that, whether or not she's spoken to SODC, because it's been on progress now for quite a while.
Well, yeah, with no updates for 2 years, so I think
No.
maybe we should just remove it.
Yeah.
Remove it? We need to vote on that?
I mean, I can have a quick chat, I can find out and then just see what.
But if there's actually a solid proposal to have one,
Yeah.
then it can come back to this committee.
Okay,
But I
okay.
mean, it's pointless having it on there.
Oh,
if it's
Nikki,
not-
It's not
progressing, then. Sorry,
No.
Nikki, sorry.
That was the latest update from Philippa, was that she's actually in discussions with Councillor Hinton regarding health and planning permissions.
Right. okay.
Oh, is that quite recent then? Okay, okay.
But it's dated 2020. Is
Yeah, that was
a
when it
typo?
was first brought to the thing, it's. But yeah,
Right.
she's in discussions with Kelly about it.
Okay.
Okay. I still think we should remove it until the proposal comes forward. Everyone in favour of that?
That's
fine.
Can I just speak about what councillor Hamilton's just brought up about there are certain areas of hot spots around the town. The town clerk, I believe, did send a copy of this to councillor Hamilton and ask him if he would send it to his Wombles. I also sent him a copy of this and asked if he'd send it to his Wombles. Could I just ask if he has notified his Wombles? Because it'd be just as easy for the Wombles to go online to this address and then put the gospel rather than going through the town clerk.
That's a simple question. Councillor Hamilton.
As councillor Miller will notify, because she is a Henley Womble, she actually got an email from me on Saturday morning, precisely to that, to asking the Wombles, amongst other things, which councillor Arld doesn't even know about, how they're getting on, and any grot spots in the town. 2 grot spots have come back. They've been forwarded to Sheridan to fall onto the SODC. So yes, the Wombles are helping. Thank you very much.
I will say though, councillor Hanson, Lorraine, councillor Hillier didn't get that email.
I think she's a Womble.
Oh, she said she's a woman.
Anyway, yes.
I identify as one.
Right.
Can I ask about the bin refurbishment?
Yes.
Is that now complete or?
Well, we're waiting for the one on the bottom of Friday Street.
Apart from that, though, I mean, it's been a long time, that project. I think you'll say something.
We're still waiting to hear back from the company that were going to give us prices to do the bottoms of the liners. I've been chasing and apparently the guy's been out on the site, so he hasn't get back to me, but.
Is this liners and hinges as well, or just liners?
Replacing them, because Dave suggested that rather than replacing the liners, we should get a bottom plate made that can go inside the existing liners. Rather than just buying a nice, quick, simple replacement liner. So
We're still waiting
those
for a quote,
prices, and
anyway.
I'm chasing, and it's just, yeah, as soon as it comes back, obviously we can get those completed, but.
Perhaps you should have had new bins, Chairman.
I did walk, as I was walking, one of the reasons I asked, I was walking through the town centre marketplace on at the weekend, and I was just thinking how good it looked. It was clean and tidy, and it was sunny, and it was a good sight to see.
I, in fact, heard comments as I was walking through town today about how lovely everything looked. So it does look lovely for me.
So maybe councillors who'd like to.
Say to our lovely bin man, who's replaced Davey, he's very polite and does a fantastic job. So.
Good, lovely.
We tell him regularly.
Councillor Hamilton, did you?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to get clarification on this point of Henley Bridge. OCC have confirmed that the stonework repair design has not yet started, but it's planned to in September. This is the replacement of the York stone on the pavement on the left-hand side of the bridge where it's currently tarmac. Is that correct? Can I also ask that the clarification be given to Henley Bridge, the central arch? It has been 5 years, yes, 5 years since Councillor Gavershap was elected. It's been 5 years waiting for that middle arch to be repaired. It needs to be repaired.
So it's obviously damaged before.
It was, and so I just want clarification that both jobs are going to be done.
Well, I think that's the under arch, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which has been damaged over many years, but I don't know why.
5 years. So it's taken 5 years.
Anyway,
Can I just
Councillor
add,
Ola,
with the Yorkstone slabs, the problem with that, and I thought we all received an email on that, maybe Councillor Hamilton didn't receive it. But basically what happened there, the officer that was dealing with it left. And unfortunately, he didn't pass the paperwork on to somebody else. So somebody else has now had to pick up that paperwork. And that's the reason why it's taken so long. End of story. And that had nothing to do with Councillor Gavershap.
Right. We'll move on now. It's item 9, police update. I must say, I'm not surprised not to see the police up here in person.
You try and get them for the next meeting. We haven't had them for a bit.
We haven't had them for a bit. I mean, they were making it sort of once every 6 months or so. So hopefully they won't be around the next one.
We have insisted that we get a report from them if they're not here. We're really pushing on that. Some kind of update to TV.
Did anybody have any comments?
Just briefly, I thought it was a very positive report for the town.
Yeah.
I really did. Long may it continue.
Amen.
Yeah.
Okay, item 10 is finances. To note the management accounts to May 2022, page 31.
No. I note that we're under budget.
which is fantastic.
So well done.
I like playing full credit.
Well done, officers and council.